Let me just start out by saying, first and foremost, I am not a fan of Logan Paul in any way, shape, or form. I think all the stuff that he's done in the past is quite questionable on a moral standpoint, but we're not talking about that today. This past WrestleMania, Logan Paul made his in-ring WWE debut, teaming up with The Miz to take on Rey and Dominic Mysterio in a winning effort. Of course, Miz getting the pinfall victory on the Mysterios. Shortly after the match had finished, The Miz turned on Logan Paul, giving him a skull-crushing finale to kind of turn Logan Paul face, or try to turn Logan Paul face. He's so inherently unlikable as a person, everybody just wanted to boo him, including myself. But there's one thing that could not be denied watching that match. Logan Paul took to professional wrestling like a duck to water. You're going to hear that a lot from a lot of people within the industry. He put on a really good performance during his very first match. Sure, there are a couple things that could have been improved on, honestly and truthfully, but overall, he did a great job. So I figured, you know what? All right, he comes in for one match, fine. That's great. He did a good job. He impressed me, which is pretty much what he was supposed to do. So come to find out, a couple months later, Logan Paul has signed a contract with the WWE. Now, I think they were kind of teasing that he was going to do another tag team match with The Miz, but after everything that happened at WrestleMania, why would that happen? Because Miz came out and said, I'm going to team with Logan Paul again. Logan Paul signed his contract and said, I'm coming for you, Miz. And they had a belter of a match at SummerSlam a couple weeks ago. That was Logan Paul's first actual singles match. He didn't have anybody to fall back on, but when you have such a good hand in The Miz, you know, he can just kind of guide Logan Paul to what can be a pretty decent match. And it was. It was the second match on the card, so it came after a very, very good match between Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch, which I think could have been questionable, but Logan Paul, again, impressed me so much in that match. He's a natural at this. Seeing him do the moonsault off the apron onto The Miz, that was a thing of perfection. His vertical leap and leapfrog was spectacular to watch. He did such an amazing job. And again, while I'm not a fan of Logan Paul the person, I thoroughly welcome him into the WWE as a competitor. And overall, I think Logan Paul will be good for the WWE in itself. Now, I'm not saying that they should strap a title on to him. No, far from it. I don't think... If he earns the respect and keeps on coming back and doing this, maybe. Do I want to see him win a title? Not necessarily, but, I mean, if Triple H thinks that it's a good idea, then maybe. I don't know. But he's so naturally gifted as an athlete because he does have the boxing experience, you know, boxing KSI. Yeah, it was him who boxed KSI. So he does have that athletic ability. So I think he could actually make a really good go at this, honestly and truthfully. It just depends on how they use him. Now, I think how Logan Paul should be used, he shouldn't be used all the time. Like, just boom, 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 every event, every show, every Raw, every SmackDown. He should be more along the lines of a special attraction. Kind of like how they wanted to do with Brock Lesnar, but more of an attraction. You know, he can bring a lot of eyes to the product with his YouTube career, with everything he's done in YouTube. Anybody who follows him may not be a professional wrestling fan. So the more eyes on the product, I've always said this about professional wrestling, the more eyes you can get on the product is a good thing. Even if they're just watching for one thing, even if it's just Logan Paul's fans watching for one match. Now, I noticed something with the match with The Miz at SummerSlam. Everybody started to get behind Logan Paul near the end of the match because they saw, yeah, he is naturally gifted. He can actually do this and he can actually go. Because when he came in, he was being booed, but when he left, he was being cheered. So I think just put more of that natural ability of his on display. Use him sparingly. Don't use him all the time. because that'll just kind of ruin everything. It's the law of diminishing returns, you know. Less is more. We'll put it that way. So just use Logan Paul from time to time for the big shows, you know. SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. Maybe leave it to those. Maybe Survivor Series, but leave it to at least the big three. Don't put him on every event. Maybe a couple Raws a year. Nothing more than that. Just, you know, don't overexpose him, because honestly, he's overexposed enough. But again, we're not talking about that. We're talking about him as a professional wrestler, which I think, use him right, and he's going to go far.